Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my ranking of my least favourite to favourite wilderness year stories from the 1990s. So I'll be taking a look at the first couple of stuff from the wilderness years, first couple of wilderness year stories that I've done bonus reviews and I'll be taking a look at the ones, and I'll be ranking my least favourite to favourite ones from the 1990s. This is because the 90s and the early to mid 2000s, they're getting these because they're not going to have top 10 stories of their decades rankings like the other decades, 60s, 70s, 80s, 2010s, and the second half of the 2000s, mid to late 2000s. So 90s and early to mid 2000s are going to have least favourite to favourite wilderness years stories rankings. So in this ranking, we have the Search Out Science Special, Search Out Space, the 1993 Children in Need, Minnesota, I should say, / EastEnders crossover, partly also broadcast on Noel's House Party, Dimensions in Time, the 1993 documentary 30 Years in the TARDIS, with its 1994 extended cut, More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS, so basically that latter version technically, the 1996 TV movie Doctor Who, or Doctor Who the Movie, and the 1999 comic relief special, The Curse of the Fatal Death, which is technically not canon, so Scrim the Shulker, that latter one did technically get a DVD release. So, yeah, I'm counting them because they're bonuses and they're wilderness year stuff, and hey, it's a little bit of fun. Also, before we start, honourable mention to the Destiny of the Doctor game master cutscenes. Yeah, because I did it as a bonus review. It's not really counted as a proper wilderness years thing, so like Fix with Sontarans, it's a bonus review. And that's why it's an honourable mention here. Like Fix with Sontarans was on Season 22's ranking. So, to get down into the ranking properly, number 5. It is 5, yeah. Okay, number 5. This story only really came about because a much better story seemed to have been dropped, and instead we got this. And although it was a bit of fun, just for charity, just a little bit of a reunion, I guess, the story wasn't very good. It is, of course, Dimensions in Time. Okay, this one isn't that great of a story. I mean, everyone does try their best in a performance-wise, apart from maybe Tom Baker at the very start. But even then, he at least turns up. And yeah, it just isn't a very good story, and some of the effects are a bit pretty weak. The whole, I don't know why the BBC were trying to do this 3D weak thing. I'm not sure what's going on. It's just kind of a shame this story was a bit of a mess, which is a massive shame. It's supposed to be the 30th anniversary special as well, due to actual proper 30th anniversary specials being dropped due to some sort of problems, whether they're in production or pre-production or finance or something. This is probably the 30th anniversary, the actual 30th anniversary, and yeah. And John Nathan Turner, for some reason, thought it'd be a good idea to have some sort of, I think, as a crossover with EastEnders as a bit of a stunt promotion. How wrong could he get? Mind you, it's probably the most tolerable EastEnders you could watch. So I'll say that, especially as it's not canon in the EastEnders universe. You can debate whether it's not canon in Doctor Who, but it's definitely not canon in EastEnders, which probably makes it even more tolerable. You can tell I'm not a soap fan. Or at least not an EastEnders fan. Well, I'm not really a soap fan, full stop. Anyway, yeah, Dimensions in Time, pretty much a mess. At least Noel Edmonds liked the first episode. I'm not sure he thought about the second one. We don't really see his response of that. Oh well. Anyway, moving on to number 4. Number 4 is much better. Much, much better. Number 4 is the Search Out Science Doctor Who special, Search Out Space. Now, this one is better than Dimensions in Time because it actually has a bit more enjoyability with it. It actually knows what it wants to be. There are some questions. It does ask a lot of questions for you to think about, but there's not really any answers at the very end. And yeah, you don't have to have too many answers, but I would like them to actually kind of answer some of the questions that they put to the challengers, the Doctor's questions to K9, Ace, and Cedric, this new character for this specific story. It'd be nice if you could go over some answers or facts towards them, whilst questions towards the audience could be something they could go off and find for themselves. But we don't really have the contestants completely finish some of the answers, like K9 doesn't completely finish talking about stars. But it is still really fun and it's got some really entertaining moments. Number 3 is also really fun. This was also done for charity. This one, however, has a good plot, good story, and some even better casting. And this is even less canon than Dimensions in Time. This and would prove as a springboard for Stephen Moffat's writing career in Doctor Who. The Curse of the Fatal Death. Yes, The Curse of the Fatal Death. This is a charity Doctor Who story done right. I mean, there is a few kind of little bit of humour that doesn't quite work, or it can be a little bit over the top. But I think it's a really good cast. But I think it's a very good story nevertheless. Jonathan Pryce is probably one of the best non-canon masters, alongside Schalke Derek Jacobi. And he's fantastic. He's so good. I want him to be an official master, or come back and play the master later down the line. Julius Ravala also proves herself to be a very good companion in the form of Emma, and proves that she would have been good in the role of the companion that would have replaced Ace had season 27 been made. And Rowan Atkinson is probably the best non-canon Doctor. Sorry, Schalke fans. That being said, Richard E. Grant also does a really good job here and in Schalke. The other 3 Doctors, I like Lumley. I think she does a good job. I like Hugh Grant as well. He was pretty impressive. Jim Brogren's the only one that didn't really impress. I think they didn't really write him that or direct him that well. Brogren is a great actor. I think he does a good job in the role, but the writing and directing didn't really help him in his scene. I will go more into... I might go more into detail about my opinions on these Doctors, especially the ones I like, in a ranking of non-canon Doctors from the Wilderness years. So these 5 and Schalke, also played by Richard E. Grant, but a little bit quite different to his one from this story. Like I said in the review, I'll go into a ranking about these 6 Doctors, these 5 Doctors here in Schalke, in their own little mini ranking after Scream to Schalke. Number two is not a fictional thing, and it's even Search Out in Space. Whilst it was a kind of a game show, it was and educational at the same time. It was also slightly fictionalized with these stories going on and these fictional characters. It wasn't Sylvester McCoy hosting the show. It was the Doctor. It wasn't Sophie Aldred and John Leeson or the guy playing Cedric going around answering questions. It was Ace, K9, and Cedric. In this number 2's case, this is a documentary. So Search Out Space, my point was that was still slightly fictional. It had the fictional characters at least. Whilst here, there's some sort of recreated moments, but some of them, maybe not in characters, but taking inspiration from characters. But it's mostly just talking about the show, and it's brilliant. More than 30 years in the TARDIS. Broadcast as 30 years in the TARDIS, with a slightly extended cut, more 30 years in the TARDIS, and then with the VHS extended edition, more than 30 years in the TARDIS, which you can find on the DVD. Brilliant. Just brilliant. Really great documentary. Some really good these recreated, not recreated, but these little specially filmed bits. I mean, some of them don't really have much of a story or context, but they're still pretty nice, and the documentary is really well done. It's really great, and it's really handled really well. There's not really much more I can say about it that I haven't already said. But for those wanting to check out the history of Doctor Who up to 1993, check it out. Okay, moving on to number 1. Now, number 1, it's not here because it's the only actual canon, if you don't consider Dimensions in Time canon, the only actual official Doctor Who episode of the 1990s. It's not here just because of that. It's here because it's generally good. I mean, it's very divided between fans, but in my opinion, it's generally good. Really had a great time, and just superbly made for the most part. It's amazing. Doctor Who, or Doctor Who, the movie. Yeah, you can bitch and moan all you bloody want. This is my personal favourite Doctor Who stories from the 90s, with the competition that I've basically been talking about already. And it probably be the best thing on the Wilderness years. I mean, we'll see how the 2000s go, the early 2000s stuff go. I mean, I think the only real competition is probably Scrim the Schalke, but yeah, TV movie is just amazing for me. I just really enjoy this movie. Paul McGann is amazing as the Doctor, and so is Sylvester McCoy in his few scenes. I actually like Eric Roberts' Master. I do kind of have a slight issue with him, the direction that they took his Master later on when he gets pretty campy. Not the same campy as Jonathan Pryce, just pretty goofy, whilst Pryce was a bit more of a parody. Roberts kind of goes just a bit too over the top goofy towards the end, but I think that's more the direction. That being said, I do think the direction of the film is pretty good, and it is executed really well. Also have to mention Daphne Ashbrook and Niti Toto do brilliant performances as the companions of the story, and whilst these two characters won't return due to rights issues, the actors will go on to appear as different characters in multiple Big Finish audios, such as Niti Toto will be coming back in real time as a separate character, for example. And also Daphne Ashbrook would be in the audio The Next Life, where she would be playing a character who gets very involved with the 8th Doctor. And by the end, there's a bit more of a connection between the two of them than having a connection. There's some sort of bigger connection, and I don't mean romantic, although you kind of get that throughout the rest of the story anyway. And I've got the Worlds of Doctor Who thing here, and I think they're in the third one, as they brought the two actors in to play two unit characters. To work with Mike Eggs. I'll listen to that one at some point. Anyway, so yeah, those two actors will be coming back, just not as these two characters. It'd be great to see the two characters again, though. But like with Torchwood Series 4 characters, they could use the actors. I'm not sure about Torchwood Series 4, but they could use the actors from the TV movie. But like Torchwood Series 4, they can't use the original new characters. In fact, Roberts' Master has only just started being used, although that might be due to actor availability rather than rights issue. But anyway, TV movie is stunning. Look, visually stunning. Cinematography is amazing. Editing, for the most part, is brilliant. A little bit of questionable ones in some places, but for the story and context, makes a lot of sense, and I think it's handled really well. One of my major problems is the Dalek voices at the start, but that's at the very start. You can gloss over it. Not too bad. I fucking love the music. The music is probably my favourite thing of the movie. It's so amazing, and I'm glad fans have been using it in their scores for fan films and fan audios, especially Roman Gowan's big 3-part Doctor Who fan film about this big scientist who was trying to do something to kind of save the universe. I think he basically just used just that soundtrack in that fan films mini-series. And Pope's Icon Production fan films and fan audios, especially Phoenix Smith ones, have also used them to a their extent, and a certain Mr. Nicholas Payne has also been using Doctor Who TV and UV soundtrack, amongst other tracks, in his fan films. I wonder who that chap is. I wonder, who do you think? Who do you think it is? Anyway, so in short, the TV movie, I personally love it. I think it's amazing. There are a few issues I do have with it, but on the whole, I think it's bloody brilliant. Which is a very controversial opinion, but to say it's the best of the 90s content, then I don't think that's too controversial, depending. I mean, some people might say 30s and Sardis, some people might say Curse of the Fatal Death. But I think it's not that controversial when it comes to 90s stuff I'm talking about. It's just when saying I personally love it, I think it's amazing, full stop, then maybe with some problems, but I still consider it 9 out of 10 content, then that's when it gets a bit more controversial. Okay, so that's it from my least favourite to favourite Wilderness Years stories from the 90s ranking. There will be a whole overall ranking of all of the Wilderness Years stuff at the very end. Like I said, I'll do one for the early to mid-2000 stuff as well. To recap the list, number 5 is Dimensions in Time. Number 4 is Search Out Space, Doctor Who Special, Search Out Science. Number 3 is The Curse of the Fatal Death. Number 2 is More Than 30 Years in the TARDIS. And number 1 is Doctor Who, the movie, or just Doctor Who. So anyway, that's it from me. Thank you for watching. The next Wilderness Years review will be Doctor Who: Death Comes to Time. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye. Don't forget to click below to subscribe to the official Nicholas Payne Retro YouTube channel. Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my least favourite to favourite Wilderness Years of the 90s. And welcome to... Hello ladies and gentlemen, Nick here, and welcome to my least favourite to favourite stories from the 1990s during the... Wilderness Years 1990s story. Wilderness Years stories from the 1990s. Okay. So, in this ranking, we have Search Out in Space, Search Out... So in this ranking, we have Search Out Science, Search Out in Space. No. The 1996 TV movie, and also... How wrong was he? How wrong was he? Mind you, it is probably the most tolerable EastEnders you could watch, mind you. Number 4 is Search Out Number 4 is the Search Out Space Doctor Who special. Fuck! It's also probably the last time you'll probably see... Actually, that's not quite true. With a slightly extended cut, even more 30 years. With a slightly longer cut, more than... Okay, moving on to number 1. Actually gets pretty... And they have kind of a connection, and by the end, there's a sort of connection. And I've also got the World's a Big Finish CD here. Apparently, they're in this. Was it? No, it's not this. It's World's of... And Too Many Doctor Who's and Pope Zygon production, audio and fan films. But I still consider it 9 out of 10 content.